Giridhara Hari Gopi Jana Bala Giridhara Hari Yashodanandana Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Giridhara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Giridhara Hari Suranandana Sajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Sajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Sajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Sajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Giridhara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Giridhara Hari Suranandana Sajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Sajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gopinanda Hari Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Hare Rama. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, the 19th chapter, and the verse is it 11? Is that the number? Verse 11. Yes, this is the one.
Verse 12.
What?
Verse 12.
Oh, verse 12? Okay. All right. Now, I'm for it. Okay, 12. It starts over here. Okay.
Sukopavisteshu atha teshu bhuyah
Sukopavisteshu atha teshu bhuyah
Sukopavisteshu atha teshu bhuyah
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat Vigyapayam Asa Vivikta Cheta
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta Upastito Gre
Vigrihita
Abrihita Panihi
Upastito Vigrihita jani
Upastito Grihita Pani or Jani?
It's here it says Pani.
Oh, it says Pani. Okay.
P-A-N-I-H.
Pani.
Pani. Like, is that water? Is that what's
Does it say water?
With folded hands.
Oh, folded hands.
Okay, so Sukopaviteshu atateshu bhuyah
Sukopaviteshu atateshu bhuyah
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat
Vigyapayam asa vivikta chita
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta
Upastito gribi grihita pani
Upastito grihita pani
Sukopaviteshu atateshu bhuyah
Sukopaviteshu atateshu bhuyah
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta
Upastito gribi grihita pani
Upastito grihita pani
Sukopavisteshu atateshu bhuyah
Sukopavisteshu atateshu bhuyah
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat
Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta
Upastito gribi grihita pani
Upastito grihita pani
Anyone else? That was 3 times.
Sukopavisteshu atateshu bhuyah Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta Upasthita gre abhikrita panihi Sukopavisteshu atateshu bhuyah Krita pranama sva chikirsitam yat Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta Upastita grihita panihi
Tadishu Bhuya Tatam Yat Vyam Asavitacheta
Vigyapayam asavitacheta Upasthito Vritabhitapanihi.
Anyone else? Okay then, so we'll do word for word. Sukha. Happily. We're doing it happily.
Jai.
Upavistesu. All sitting down. That's long as you can sit or stand. I prefer standing right now. Ata. Thereupon. Tesu. Unto them. The visitors. Bhuya. Again. Krita pranama. Having offered obeisances. Swa. His own.
Chikir-shitam.
Decision of fasting. Okay, now this has to be moved. Okay. Yat. Who? Vigyapayayam asa. Is that right? Vigyapayam asa. And that's submitted. Vivikta cheta. One whose mind is detached from worldly affairs. Upasthitam. Being present. Agre. Before them. Abhigrihita. Pani. Abhigrihita pani. Humbly with folded hands. So I'll say, then you repeat. After all the rishis and others had seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folded hands, told them of his decision to fast until death. After all the rishis and others had seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folded hands, told them of his decision to fast until death. And the others are, all these great souls that have arrived. And who is deciding to fast?
King Krishna.
It's Mara's birthday to you.
Maharaj to me. That's Maharaj.
So, well, actually, Prabhupada calls him a king here. Okay, so the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Although the king had already decided to fast until death on the bank of the Ganges, or Jamuna, he humbly expressed, actually then though the Ganges and the Jamuna we decided were the same river in certain places, so he humbly expressed his decision to elicit the opinions of the great authorities present there. Any decision, however important, should be confirmed by some authority. That makes the matter perfect. This means that the monarchs who ruled the earth in those days were not irresponsible dictators. They scrupulously followed the authoritative decisions of the saints and sages in terms of Vedic injunction. Maharaj Pariksit, as a perfect king, followed the principles by consulting the authorities even up to the last days of his life. So the verse again is, after all the rishis and others had seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folded hands, told them of his decision to fast until death. While I was reading it just now, it popped in my mind is a story about Chanakya Pandit, where he was advising this one. He was a Muslim king, though, wasn't it? Was it a Muslim king? Or was it
No, Hindu king.
Huh?
Hindu king.
Hindu king. So, and the king heavily relied on him. He had a very successful, run. Creating a nice kingdom. And then Chanakya Pandit gave him some advice, and the king wasn't interested. So then Chanakya Pandit, he's living in this is the real deal, no salary, no opulent lifestyle. He's living in just a hut there in the compound. He just grabs his few possessions, his loda and whatever, and starts to leave. And the king says, "Where are you going?" He says, "Well, you don't need my decisions anymore. You're not going to take my decisions. There's no need for me to be here." And he leaves. He wasn't attached to being, I'm the king doesn't make a move without first asking me. Once the king doesn't seem to want his advice, he just leaves. Now, I heard that story fairly recently. Someone said it. But the point is that the kings, they relied heavily on, this is when the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas and the Sudras are not envious of one another and all interrelating very nicely. And, and there's no just independent actions. He's asking for, and what I was thinking about, again, while we were reading this just now, how did all these people get that? We're talking about they were, some of them we know, Maitreya, but it says a great rishi of yore, but we know that he had he was about to instruct Vidura on the earth planet. But not all of these personalities were present on the earth planet. And so, are they coming by mystic power, or they're always here in some other dimension? Are they coming by Vimana? None of that kind of thing is being described. But the fact is that this king is such a great personality that they all have heard about the curse, and they all want to come immediately to see how he handles this. And then he first, mentions to them that I, with all humility, that I've decided to fast until death. And, if they have some feedback, this is their chance to say so. He's not going to just act, without their authority. So, this is so unlike, there's supposed to be checks and balances in our government, our form of government, but it's not with Brahmins and bona fide Kshatriyas. It's just a bunch of lawyers and lobbyists and people with their own selfish interests. So, and the king, and the fact is that he is so unselfish that most people, he's young. He's only been the emperor of the world for a short period of time. He has so much to look forward to in terms of the material rule of the whole planet, but he's not interested. He sees this as a blessing, and it's time to exit stage
right,
left, up, and out. He wants to go back to the other dimension, back to the person who he saw in the womb when he was the Brahmastra was coming. He was looking for that person, and that person is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And somewhere in one of these purports it stated that Krishna was saying he wanted Parikshit to come back. He was thinking about it, and he was calling him back. So I was thinking about how to approach this, and hold on. There are many examples throughout the Bhagavatam where kings or great rulers they started to act in a way. Specifically, I was thinking about the first example I was going to give is Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj.
Who?
Dhruva.
Okay. I didn't
The
catch
pole star.
Dhruva Maharaj. And so he, well, I'll just read out, but the backstory to this is that his grandfather is Swayambhuva Manu. And everything will be explained in the verses that I'm about to read, and then if not, I'll go back. But here, so this is already now, Dhruva has already achieved perfection, and he's been ruling for close to, I think, 36,000 years, or not quite that, because soon after this he departs, but he's well into his rule, and his brother has been killed by a yaksha in the Himalayas, and Dhruva goes to, get justice. And then the entire city of Alakapuri, I think it's called, the capital of the yakshas, all of them come out, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And there's a huge battle. And I'm not going to read the whole battle, but it's a fantastic. You can even see on the back of this cover. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just like, at one point he's being attacked by all this illusory, mystic tricks. He's being bombarded with snakes and rocks and all sorts of vile substances, and he knows it's all the tricks. I mean, he was being, literally at one point, the demigods watching the battle were so fearful because he had been covered by an onslaught of arrows coming from all directions. You couldn't even see him. And then all of a sudden he just appears like the sun through a dark, cloudy day like today. And because they're all praying for him, and just annihilates them. He has this special weapon. It's called the Narayana's, I don't know where it is right now, but something like a Narayana Asta, but something else. And it's an arrow. And it's basically, probably compares it to the holy name. And he's able to defeat, with this one shot of this one arrow, defeat all the illusory energy set forth by these yakshas, because they have mystic powers and they're very powerful. And he is just destroying them, cutting them to pieces. And they're amazed. They're offering their respects to him, that he's such a powerful warrior, that one man is. But they're getting, and they won't stop. And there's several waves of this. So at one point, finally, Swayambhuva Manu has to stop him. He's his grandfather. And he's already stopped him, and now this is towards the end of his instructions.
What verse is this, Prabhu?
This is in the 4th canto, chapter 11, and I'm going to start at text 28. My dear Dhruva, at the age of only 5 years, you were very grievously afflicted by the words of your mother's co-wife, and you very boldly gave up the protection of your mother and went to the forest to engage in the yogic process for self-realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result of this, you have already achieved the topmost position in all the 3 worlds. He was 5 years old, and in 6 months, he had the whole universe suffocating because of his austerities. And at one point, he's actually just taking one breath every week or something like that. And I don't remember the exact details. And everyone in the universe, the total, the air flow everyone is like suffocating, and they're begging Vishnu to please come. This boy is causing a great disturbance within the universe. He's only 5 years old. Now he's doing this out of his, it's a material desire. And he's angry. And he wants to achieve a planet or a kingdom superior not only to his father and his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, but superior to his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. That's no simple task. But even still, when he finally achieves his goal and Vishnu comes to him, he thinks, I've been looking at broken chips of glass, and now what I found is the most beautiful gem, a Vaidurya gem, a diamond, a beautiful, valuable gem. And he's not interested at all. He realizes what a paltry desire, what an immature desire. But he's only 5 years old. And so here's Manu's. So I'll read that verse again. My dear Dhruva, at the age of only 5 years, you were very grievously afflicted by the words of your mother's co-wife, and you very boldly gave up the protection of your mother and went to the forest to engage in the yogic process for self-realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result of this, you have already achieved the topmost position in all the three worlds. In the purport, Prabhupada says, Manu was very proud that Dhruva Maharaj was one of the descendants of his family, because at the age of 5 years, Dhruva began meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and within 6 months he was able to see the Supreme Lord face to face. Who can say that they can? What other personality in our scriptures has achieved such a remarkable feat? Factually, Dhruva Maharaj is the glory of the Manu dynasty, or the human family. So we should all be proud of him as humans. That one of ours made it.
Go team.
Go Dhruva. The human family begins with Manu. The Sanskrit word for man is Manusha. It sounds like minutia, like trivial. Which means descendant of Manu. Not only is Dhruva Maharaj the glory of the family of Swayambhuva Manu, but he is the glory of the entire human society, because Dhruva Maharaj had already surrendered to the Supreme Godhead. He was especially requested not to do anything unbefitting a surrendered soul. What I'm trying to point out is that he's a great king, a great self-realized soul. He's achieved something that no one else has achieved. Everyone is extremely proud of him. But yet, he's being instructed by his grandfather, who's his superior. He has the pole star waiting for him, where Vishnu is going to be his gatekeeper. That's right, something like that. Anyway, where Vishnu is going to be. It's a Vaikuntha planet. It exists after the annihilation of this universe. And so, he doesn't have to take anybody's advice, but he's a great soul. This is an example where a great king does not act like a dictator in a selfish way. Now, he was angry just like, so Maharaj Pariksit, maybe he was angry, he was a little disturbed, but he just put a snake around the ground, and then he was cursed to die within 7 days in a nasty way. But then here's Dhruva. His brother was killed. And then he goes up to get retribution, and they all attack him. And he takes them all out. So in a sense, he's justified. But Swayambhuva Manu, who's his grandfather, says, no, this is not befitting someone of your character. It's not befitting a great king. He could have said, who are you to tell me? Where were you when my father and my stepmother insulted me? But it's not like that. They're not selfish dictators. And so I'll give you a few more examples, and then I'm going to compare them to someone else. My dear Dhruva, please therefore turn your attention to the Supreme Person, who is the infallible Brahman. Face the personality of Godhead in your original position, and thus by self-realization you will find this material differentiation to be merely flickering. In other words, these people you're killing, you're seeing them as that material body. But, in the Bhagavad Gita it says, Pandita Samadarshana. And there's a very nice story that Prabhupada told in this regard, that once there was this man who had great wealth. He was like a lord of a certain area and had a big house, maybe even like a mansion or palace. And he had many sons. So he dies, and in his next life, he takes birth as a cobbler in the town that is around that palace, that place. And he grows up as a cobbler, and they're called muchis, which means that they deal with the dead animals, maybe the cow or whatever. And when the animal dies of natural causes, then they skin them and make sandals. And in some cases, they may even then eat the flesh. I don't know how prevalent that is, but I remember seeing that somewhere. But Prabhupada said, if the animal dies of natural causes. So he's considered a muchi. So now, he built this house, and these are his sons living in it. So now he goes to the door of the house that he built and brings some shoes for selling to these to his own sons. It's the same soul that was his father, but now he's in a different body, and they don't recognize him. And his own son from the previous life takes the shoes and throws them at his head and says, "Get out of here, you filthy moochie." But it's his father. It's the soul of his father in a different dress, in a different body. So we never know who's who around us. I mean, this is just my own personal little thing. You can take it for what it's worth. But there was one dog. Colleen was taking dogs, not a lot, but there was a few. But there was one at the end, and this was the last one. And there was something about his face and his eyes that really reminded me of someone I had known who had committed suicide, who had been a devotee. And there was just something in his eyes, something about his mood, his expression, that just, for some reason, I don't know why, I wasn't thinking about this person, but when I saw his eyes and the way he looked at me, that same kind of shyness, I thought, and sort of timid to be around you, I thought, is it? Is that you? It could have been. It's just my own speculation. But it made me think about it. I can't say that with any authority. And it might be to something extent, but for some reason, Super Soul gave me that idea. I wasn't looking to see, I wonder what happened to who, so-and-so. But the time frame was right. It may not have been, but still, that is the point. And in this story that Prabhupada tells, that they're throwing something at their own father who built them the house, and they don't recognize him. So, now, thus regaining your natural position and rendering service unto the Supreme Lord, who is the all-powerful reservoir of all pleasure, and who lives in all living entities as the Supersoul, you will very soon forget the illusory understanding of I and my. And Dhruva Maharaj was already a liberated person, because at the age of 5 he had seen the personality of Godhead. But even though liberated, he was, for the time being, afflicted by the illusion of Maya, thinking himself to be the brother of Uttama in the bodily concept of life. The whole material world is working on the basis of I and mine. This is the root of the attraction of the material world. If one is attracted by this root of illusory conception of I and mine, he will have to remain within this material world in different exalted or nasty positions. And also, another point is that, like, say, Krishna put Arjuna into anger. First of all, he put him into a state of, like, contemplation, or not, he said it was an impurity. Why has this impurity come upon you? But he wanted Arjuna to be angry. He wanted Arjuna to fight that battle. Even though he's thinking, I don't want to fight my own kinsmen. I don't want to do battle with these people. For what? But Krishna wanted that to happen. Just like Yudhisthira, after the battle, he didn't want the kingdom after he realized how much violence had happened. But Bhishma said, no, this is what Krishna wants. You're the person that he wants to rule. And similarly, this thing with Parikshit Maharaj is a similar kind of thing. Krishna puts them in these places, in these situations. He covers them over for a purpose. He covers us over for a purpose. I can't speak for all of you, but for myself, I am covered over. So when I get angry, I'm really in Maya. And it's not because of and although you can use it. And there's also the example of, the story of Narada Muni and the cobra. You know that story? Have you ever seen a cobra? How they put their head up with the thing. Have you ever seen that?
The hood.
So, pictures?
Videos.
Oh, you haven't seen them in real life. They're actually quite...
In a zoo?
I saw one in Mayapur. And a devotee I was with saw one down by the Ganga. But I saw one as I was walking towards the Gokula, where it is now, or at least it was in 2005. There was a big coming by us. But anyway, so Narada Muni converts a cobra. And he tells him not to use his fangs anymore. I can't remember if he actually takes the poison out of the fangs, but he tells him you can't kill people. You can't, because cobras sometimes will just chase after you. Most snakes, there's a reason. Sometimes a cobra and like a water moccasin, there's no necessarily any real. They're just aggressors. So he totally surrenders to Narada Muni. And so then everybody in the village, now they know that he's become a disciple of Narada Muni and he can't do nothing with his fangs. And so they're throwing rocks at him, they're teasing him. And, he's really in a lot of distress. And he's actually getting kind of hungry because he, can't even threaten anyone to get something to eat or something. So, so then Narada Muni comes back to see his disciple, and he sees he's very morose, and he said, well, what's wrong? He said, well, you told me I can't use my fangs anymore. And so now everybody knows that, and they're constantly, throwing things at me, and I can't get food, anything. And he said, yeah, I told you not to use your fangs. I said not to bite anyone, but you can show them. You can raise up and show them. You can play it. So I use that a lot when I get angry. See, I was just playing part there. So anyway, that is devotees get angry, and the test is after you've been angry, if you're and you're shaking, you're out of control, then you've been under the influence of anger. If you get angry and you're using it for a purpose, and you speak strong words to cut the thick knot, and yet you're still calm, then you know that the person is using this in a spiritual way. It's you at least give them the benefit of the doubt. So then I'll just read a few more verses here. It ends this chapter. My dear king, just consider what I have said to you, which will act as medicinal treatment upon disease. Control your anger, for anger is the foremost enemy on the path of spiritual realization. I wish all good fortune for you. Please follow my instructions. See, now, there's two things. There's greed and there's anger. So when one becomes very successful, what happens is they become greedier. It's not enough. I want more. Like there's another story. There's two men. I don't remember exactly how this one goes, but there's two men. And one of them has this boom that he can get whatever he wants. and the other one has the boon that he can double whatever his neighbor gets. So this person comes to the first person and says, "Well, I want a house with 10 rooms." So then he gets that, and then his neighbor gets a house with 20 rooms. Because, if I see you've got something, I've got to get something bigger. Okay? That's envy. And so the other side of when you get something, you want more, you get greedy. But the other side of it is, if you don't get what you want, you get angry. So that's where the anger comes in. So now the next thing is the first person asks for gold. I want 100,000 gold coins. Okay, you got 100. Then the next day, his neighbor gets 200,000 gold coins. And this keeps going on like this. So finally, the man comes to the first man and says, "What do you want?" He says, "I want you to take one eye out."
What?
Think. If I lose one eye, then my neighbor loses
2.
That's envy. That's anger. That's the nature of this material world. And because we're all envious of Krishna, as long as we have envy, we're never ever going to be able to love Krishna or be with Krishna. If you have envy of anything, even though I don't have any envy. How can I be envious of Krishna? I can't think of how I could possibly be envious of the supreme, all-powerful personality of Godhead. But if you just see that you just have love for the deity or for Krishna, but yet you have some envy and you don't see Krishna within all living entities, even like Prabhupada used to say to people that would take sannyas, he would say, if you see a householder, whether it's a devotee or a non-devotee, if you see a man with a woman, a wife, and children, and a car, and a house, and you think, "Oh, that's very nice. I used to have like that." If you have that, then you're not ready. You have to be completely free of that. You have to be so satisfied, self-satisfied. Satisfied in your service to Krishna. So the next to the last verse is, and it's going to act upon, and then he says, a person who desires liberation from this material world should not fall under the control of anger, because then, bewildered by anger, one becomes a source of dread for all others. Someone who's always angry, he's just a source of dread for everyone. My dear Dhruva, you thought that Yaksha killed your brother, and therefore you killed great numbers of them. But by this action, you have agitated the mind of Lord Shiva's brother Kuvera, who was the treasure of the demigod. Please note that your actions have been disrespectful to Kuvera and Lord Shiva. In our common dealings, we should maintain friendship with everyone, and certainly with such exalted demigods as Kuvera. Our behavior should be such that no one should become angry and thereby commit a wrong to individuals, families, or society. Thus, Swayambhuva Manu, after giving instructions to Dhruva Maharaj, his grandson, received respectful obeisances from him. Then Lord Manu and the great sages went back to their respective homes. Thus ended the Bhagavatam purpose of the 4th canto, 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Swayambhuva Manu Dhruva Maharaj to stop fighting. So I'm actually out of time. But there's one. The point is, I was going to mention the story of King Vena. And King Vena, he was someone who did not take instructions from the Brahmins. And he even told the Brahmins, he was stopping the Brahmins, and they went from doing their sacrifices, and they went to him and said, you should, you should allow the Brahmins to perform their sacrificial duties. And he just mocks them and says, don't you understand that the king is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all the demigods are my parts and parcels? I don't need advice from you Brahmins. My limbs of the demigods like Vayu and Indra, and you, by offering sacrifices to me, then all the demigods are satisfied. As soon as the Brahmins hear this, they just say, kill him! Kill him! And just by the sound of their words, he leaves his body. So, there's a difference between a saintly king and a selfish, materialistic leader who has no spiritual qualities. And Parikshit Maharaj has all those spiritual qualities. We can see that in this verse, in this purport, where he's preparing for his last 7 days on how to exit this material world. And he's asking he's asking all the authorities there if he's doing the correct thing. And he's not just acting whimsically. He's taking advice. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, even though he had all right to be angry, he went too far, and then he listened to his superior, Swayambhuva Manu, as opposed to someone like Vena, who was just offense personified. And he didn't care for any good instruction from anyone. He just was enamored with he was intoxicated with his power, and he wanted everything for himself. So if there's anyone, some realization, something they'd like to share. Yes.
I think of another person who sought authority, even though it was pretty obvious what he should do it in himself, but he sought the authority to the blessings of the other devotees, was Krishnadas Kaviraj. When he was going to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it was pretty obvious in his heart that he should do this, and yet he went to the deities and the devotees to get their blessings.
He didn't think he was thinking, how can I do it?
But he had the idea that he was supposed to do it.
Yeah, no,
So
they
he went
told
and
him to.
checked.
They were telling him to do it.
Oh, I thought.
Yeah, someone came to him and said to him in a dream or something. I think Nityananda. Nityananda.
Yeah, but he still checked.
Yeah, checked. Yeah. And he couldn't have done it. He says, I am blind, and I think he said deaf. And my hand is trembling. And somehow or other I am writing this. Because Madan Mohan, the deity, was speaking it to him. Yeah, that's a perfect example. Actually, I was going to use a bunch of prayers from him for yesterday's class. There were some really beautiful prayers that he get about worshiping the lotus feet.
In the Chaitanya Charitamrita?
In the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there's one really beautiful, and since I was going to talk about, surrendering to the lotus feet. And by the way, we do that. You mentioned in the beginning of the class about offering respects to one another. We do that every morning.
I know.
Right? Because the way you said it sounded like...
No, just as far as spontaneous.
Yeah, go ahead.
It reminded me of Srila Prabhupada, how he would always, before he came here, and you probably know this better than I did, how he would go to the different Radha Damodar, or to the Goswamis, how he would be always praying to his spiritual master.
Right. I'm saying right. You're right.
So I'm seeing, see how I'm not a big giving that inspiration, how that Prabhupada, like this one remembrance of Rasa get how she could see light coming when Prabhupada was praying to Krishna, please come, and when there was that installation of Krishna Balarama.
Yeah.
He was asking Krishna to please come and like that, in the deed.
Mula Prakirti, in her last days, those things that she was stating, she said that there was a person who manages Advaita Acharya's temple, and he, right before, and Prabhupada would go there regularly and cry out loud, that I have to go and do the service, and he was praying to be empowered. And then just a day or two before he was actually to board the Jaladuta, he came there and he was crying very loudly to please give me the mercy and and the devotion to fulfill the orders of my spiritual master, like that. But I wanted to give
he was asking for blessings from that Pujari.
Yeah, exactly. For the blessings from the Pujari as well, yeah.
And also when he wrote those prayers on the from Jaladuta, and he was asking to
Let me be your puppet.
let me dance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No,
No, I was just going along with what you said. He said, "Make me dance, make me sing. Give me the words to say." But I want to describe just the actual. This is Lord Shiva talking to the Prajetas, and he's describing the beauty of the Lord's lotus feet. My dear Lord, your two lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like two blossoming petals of the lotus flower, which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of a conditioned soul. In other words, you see the Lord's lotus feet, you see his nails, the light coming from it, just cleans the heart, all the darkness is taken out. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours, which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls, covered with the darkness of ignorance, can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master. So it's also then saying that the spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a very beautiful prayer that Lord Shiva is teaching to the Prajetas. And in the center of it, I'll just quickly, he describes the beauty of the Lord. And I think it starts right about here. But I started at the lotus feet. The Lord's beauty resembles a dark cloud during the rainy season. As the rainfall glistens, his bodily features also glisten. So he's sparkling. And you know how the light hits the rainfall? Sometimes when I was living in Tennessee, when there's like a hard frost, it's like an ice-covered frost. It looks like it's at night, and each snowflake is shining like it looks just like jivas. You can see the idea that there are jivas, or the super soul, is in every atom. I was driving down the road, and I all of a sudden had this realization, because every snowflake was lit from the moonlight, and it was and from the light of the headlight of my car, you could see them all lit up. I was thinking, that's what Prabhupada said. Every atom, and in between every atom, is the super soul, is the jiva. And every now and then you get this glimpse of that's what it's like. It's like when the frost on the snow, and there's little drops of water, and they light up at night. So it says, the Lord has 4 arms, an exquisitely beautiful face with eyes like lotus petals, a beautiful, highly raised nose, a mind-attracting smile, a beautiful forehead, and equally beautiful and fully decorated ears. There's a whole beautiful purple here. Yeah. The Lord is super excellently beautiful on account of his open and merciful smile and his sidelong glance upon his devotee. It's like, imagine just this sidelong glance. Like that.
It's not the same.
Huh? It's not the same. How do you know? Well, let me see you do it then.
Not the same.
Don't make him angry now.
Anyway, the concept this is the perverted reflection. Okay, but in any case, his black hair is curly, and his garments, waving in the wind, appear like flying saffron pollen from lotus flowers. His glittering earrings shiny helmet, bangles, garland, ankle belts, waist belt, and various other bodily ornaments combined with conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower to increase the natural beauty of the Kaustuba pearl on his chest. The Lord has shoulders just like a lion's. Upon these shoulders are garlands, necklaces, and epaulets. Like they're like... Mm-hmm. And all of these are always glittering. So he's just like dazzling. It's dazzling. Besides these, and I've always envisioned having that kind of like, some kind of laser lights just kind of dazzling, with little, you have like sort of glass, diamonds or something, and then just have the lights hit it in such a way that it dazzles with a sort of silvery white outfit. That's one of my dreams. Upon these shoulders are garlands, necklaces, and epaulets, and of all of these are always glittering. Besides these, there is the beauty of the Kaustuba Mani pearl, and on the dark chest of the Lord there are streaks of Srivatsa, which are signs of the goddess of fortune. These glittering of these streaks excels the beauty of your gold testing stone. Indeed, such beauty defeats a gold testing stone. So when they test this stone, sort of like a Cilius stone, the gold, it leaves streaks on it. So its dark chest leaves these golden streaks here. The Lord's abdomen is beautiful due to 3 ripples in the flesh. Being so round, the abdomen resembles the leaf of a banyan tree. And when he exhales and inhales, the movement of the ripples appears very, very beautiful. The coils within the navel of the Lord are so deep that it appears that the entire universe sprouted out of it and yet again wishes to go back. The lower part of the Lord's waist is dark and covered with yellow garments and a belt bedecked with golden embroidery work. The symmetrical lotus feet and the calves, thighs, and joints of his legs are extraordinarily beautiful. Indeed, the entire body appears to be well built. And then, my dear Lord, your 2 lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like 2 blossoming petals of the lotus flower, which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of a conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls, covered with the darkness of ignorance, can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master. This is a prayer sung by Lord Shiva to the Prachetas. And it's explained. It's not a long prayer. It takes about 15-20 minutes.
What address is that?
It's the 4th canto.
4-7.
And it's chapter 24. Oh. And sometimes it's referred to as the Shiva Gita.
Right.
And at the end...
we used to listen to it.
I used to read it every morning when I was done president. And after that, and I still go back to it regularly. Mm-hmm. But and then at the end, it describes that this was a prayer taught by Lord Brahma to Brigu and all the Prajapatis before they went out to create the universe. And he said, and if you if you chant this mantra and keep it in your heart, and it's also talking about basically how to chant japa. And you keep this fixed in your heart, and you will act, with wisdom and achieve your goal in devotional service. It's very powerful, very powerful. Anyway, that was the best I could do at the last minute. Yes.
This is very well described about the Lord's form, and somebody have seen it, different people. Who is that who saw that? Was Brahma? Lord Brahma, is that what you talked about?
This was Lord Shiva, but
Lord Shiva who saw that.
But I heard that just last night. One devotee was saying that at one point Lord Brahma, Krishna, right before he was sending Brahma after he had realized what his service was and what the universe was, and then Krishna shakes his hand and says, "Go ahead, you got this."
A couple of other things I was trying to say was Guru Maharaj was giving class last week, and he also said, Lord Chaitanya and Mahaprabhu's associates, when when Mahaprabhu was gone, when they were worshipping, they used so many different types of products to bathe the feet. One of them was kumkum, one of them was akrura, I don't know what that powder is. So many, some krura, you've got to ask the Bengalis. Different powders, flowers, incense, these, that, right on the feet, they worship like that. Balaram just told me in Vrindavan, they bathe with real water, the deities.
Well, I used to
I've never heard that.
I used to do it with Gornitai and Atlanta when they first were installed.
There's just water and scented things.
I used to massage their body with gopi chandan and lemon juice.
Ooh.
In the Gornitai, we didn't know.
Yeah.
It was 1972 or 73.
Well, that's right.
I did that.
Huh?
I did that. Why not? They're brass. Why not? That's not what you're supposed to do. Every so often, anyways.
Well, I did it every morning. I started with their feet. I can envision. I went up to their legs, the calves, the thighs, the hips, and their broad chest, their arms, the shoulders, the back. And I was very careful on the head and the face. And then I would take regular bath towels and damp, and then just wipe it off. And then we take that and that would make the Charnamrita.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they miss that now.
I think I used to do that too, and then they stopped it after I was there, after I was gone. But yeah, and they put a big bath towel around the base and pour some water, not great quantities, but
what happens is
how would
underneath on the marble,
got a lot
it
of
gets green. You have to, and they're very heavy. But I used to do that when we were over at 13th Street. I don't remember us doing that when I was president, though. Because I was taking care of Lady Subhadra, Subhadra, according to Jayadvaita Muna. He said, I dare anyone to find some place where Prabhupada said Lady Subhadra. But then I did. I heard Prabhupada saying, Balaram, Jagannath, your sister Subhadra, yes, Lady Subhadra, Subhadra. He said it. And he challenged anybody to do it. And I don't know where I heard it. I was listening, Colin's always playing these lectures. I heard Prabhupada say Lady Subhadra. Yeah.
A couple of other things. I wasn't here at the end of Narottam Thakur's narration. I left. There is a couple of things that Narottam Das Thakur did was very popular. One of them, he's the one who started Lord Chaitanya's appearance days.
Yeah, she mentioned that.
Oh, she did, yeah. And then in these festivals, different people have seen Lord Chaitanya in there dancing. Did you hear that?
No.
At least the first big festival they came.
Yeah, they came, and different people have seen him in different form. Some saw him as Nimai, others saw him with Lord Chaitanya, and they will point him out. They said, look, they are Deva. And they'll be dancing. And did you also mention that when he left, he turned into milk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did mention, I forgot to say, they were bathing him in the river. And he started to dissolve into milk, and they wanted to stop, but he had told him to bathe him, so they
took the milk and then put him in a pot, brought it, and the samadhi is still there.
Yeah, it's a milk samadhi,
Yeah, it's still there now, in case if somebody's talking about it.
And it doesn't need to be pasteurized.
That was very neat to know that,
Yeah. So much nectar is in there.
I want you all to say a couple of prayers. Yesterday, I don't know whether you all know this devotee Leelata. I know. His name is Manoj, and he's a very short Indian guy. He comes here every year to celebrate his son's birthday. Do you all remember him? He's very little. He's very Krishna conscious, and he has a family.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he passed away a few months ago in the Himalayas.
He did?
He did. His wife called yesterday, and she's coming this Sunday to do his birthday party, but she doesn't want it to be a shraddha.
Okay.
You know, she's going to be here. I don't know how to even handle this whole situation. But we know him very well. He comes here every year. Haridwani knows him. And
The other thing is that this is good news that, well, I mean, I heard this from Ma Lakshmi, and she said she heard it from Haridwani, but, you know, Murari Sevak was, you know, there's a lot of, like, problems there, and it looks like Nitya Gaur and Vaishnavi are going to go and take charge of it.
Yeah.
Actually, personally told me that in an email.
Yeah.
That they were attracted to the idea, and they asked their Guru Maharaj, and he said, "Go to Murari."
Yay!
You see, Ma Lakshmi said, when I told her what was happening, she said, "What about Nitya Gaur?" And then I thought, yeah. And so then I got in touch, and we got in touch, and then I didn't talk to Nitya Gaur, but I thought that would be perfect.
Yeah.
That's just
Because
what,
we put so much blood, sweat, and tears in Lakshmi and everything.
They're going to meet with the board of directors and a couple.
Yeah, well, that should be interesting. You know, it's like 2 to 3.
One of them.
Yeah, but anyway, that's really good news. I hope it works out for them. We should say a prayer for their success. For Murari. Murari, remember the name.
That's their band. You stick.
Anyway, I gotta run. I gotta go.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
So, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
That's about Angie. She's going to be available Friday, Saturday, Thursday, and Friday.